Episode 56. So, bigger tires begets bigger control arms begets bigger springs, and so on and so on. I just want to live in a place where chickens can freely cross the street without their intentions being questioned. Hello and welcome to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki G. I'm here to inform and entertain, titillate, and delight you in all things off-road for the next 10 minutes or so. Why 10 minutes? Let's see. Insert joke here. Thank you for tuning in. You can listen to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Overcast, Breaker, CastBox, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Stitcher. And about 3 of those I've actually heard of. The rest of them, who knows? I'm sure somebody's listening to it on it. You can contact the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast at 10minuteoffroad@gmail.com. That's 10minuteoffroad@gmail.com. All one word. You know the drill. Or you can leave a comment on our vast amount of social media outlets, such as, well, I don't really do social media. But speaking of which, you can follow Speaking of which, you can follow 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, but never on TikTok. And to be honest with you, I'm not all that big on social media. So a lot of things going on this week I want to talk about. The weather is breaking. It's finally, spring is starting to spring, I guess, or sprung. The weather's starting to get nice. We're coming up to, in a couple of weeks, the trails are opening up in North Carolina. A lot of the fire service roads have already opened up. And it looks like it's going to be a good year this year. I can hardly wait. I've got no plans as of yet, but everybody's making plans and the gears are spinning. I got a feeling 2022 is going to be a good wheeling year for Nick. So what I want to talk about this week is I've finally done it. I went with some 33-inch tires, and I got some Nexian Rodian MTs, and I've heard good things about them. Know a few people who have them, said good things about it. I decided I'd give it a try. I got to tell you, my Falken Wild Peaks that I've got years and years ago were probably the best tires I've ever had. They lasted a long time. They did good. And then last set of tires I went with Milestars. Was not impressed with them. I've got a good 4 or 5 years out of them. And there was still a good bit of tread left on them, but a couple of them were out of round pretty bad and made the Jeep vibrate pretty rough. So I'm trying the Nexian Rodians MTs. And I went with 33s. For the same price, I could have got 35s. But I think 33s is right at the cusp of what my axles can handle without sleeving and trussing them and doing all that jazz, which I'm kind of on the fence if I'm going to build an axle. Should I just get a better axle? You know, I could easily spend $1,000 building an axle. And can I just get a used Dana 44 or some 1-tons or a Sterling or something for the money? I'm not sure, but I don't really rock crawl or go do anything insane. I don't really think I need bigger axles. I think my rig's right at a comfortable capability the way it is right now. But anyhow, so I got new tires, and I want to talk about them. First off, I'd like to say I purchased them through online. First time I ever bought tires online through simpletire.com. The relentless YouTube ads finally got to me. I checked them out, got a good deal on the tires, And I got a good deal on installation at the local Firestone, which is where I take my Jeep to get front end aligned anyhow. So I kind of know the people in the shop, kind of know the shop. So my experience with SimpleTire.com was pretty good. It was easy, paid for it all online, set up my appointment. I actually made a mistake when I made the appointment, and I dropped my Jeep off a week early. So I made the appointment for the wrong week. And they accommodated me, no problem. And it was flawless and headache-free. Although I do think Firestone kind of messed up on balancing one of my tires. So I had a vibration in the front, and I rotated the tires, and now the vibration is in the back. So either I got a out of whack rim, or they just really screwed up on the balancing, which I'm going for the balancing. All right, so I'm pretty happy with my tires, the stance it gives the Jeep, and I think it's gonna make it a little more off-road capable. Although I am a firm believer in it's not the tire size, it's the driver. You could navigate anything. My 31s have pretty much got me everywhere I need to go. Of course, I did have to throw out quite a bit of winch line, but recovery's I kind of enjoy doing it. But getting the bigger tires created a slew of other problems that I'm spending about the next 2 weeks addressing. The number one and most obvious thing is the bigger tires, they rub on my control arms and they rub on my fenders. So, yeah, I have to cut my fenders. I'm dreading it. I took my fender flares off today. I bought some nice, cheap Bushwhacker knockoffs off of eBay for $92. I want to see how those work. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting the expensive Napiers and Bushwhackers, but let's face it, I'm going to tear these things off. And I don't want to spend $300 and just trash them. So I'm going to spend $92, and we'll see how it goes. If I screw these up, I'm just going to armor plate it. So another problem I have is I've noticed that the Jeep is not, I don't know what's the correct word for it, kind of ballless. It's not as peppy. It takes quite a bit of heavy pedal, or it takes quite a bit of skinny pedal to get it up on plane, so to speak, to get enough breakup speed. And once it's on the highway, it's okay. But I do notice that it's a little bit more sluggish with the bigger tires on it. Not a deal breaker because I don't drive fast, and I try to stay off the highway, believe it or not. So while inspecting my Jeep with the new tires, I'm going over everything, making sure nothing rubs and clears. And I noticed that because I lifted my Jeep another inch recently, that my control arm is not long enough, therefore my axle's not centered. So then that didn't really bother me too much with the 31s, but now 33s, I have even less clearance. So I got to address that issue. And then while I'm in there doing that, I've noticed my control arm bushings on my axle for the upper control arms are kind of worn out. And I looked, and the last time I replaced those was 2014, which is not bad. That's a good life expectancy on some bushings. But let me do my math here. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So it's about 7 years of bushings. It's 7 years of very hard, abusive life. Because I'm not too gentle with the Jeep, I should say. And then while I'm in there inspecting the control arm bushings, I've noticed that I have a motor mount bushing that's out on the passenger side. Now, I replaced my motor mount bushings about 2 or 3 years ago. Passenger side's wore out. I have no idea how that happened. Am I driving too fast to the left or to the right, or am I leaning on it? But either way, so getting a good deal on tires and putting the tires on just caused me a whole slew of work, a couple of weekends worth of getting the Jeep back up to gear. And I said Uwharrie's opening soon. The trails are opening soon, so I'm kind of under the wire to hurry up and get it all done. I could probably wheel with it the way it is, and I just scraped the tires a little bit. But I'm going to try to do it the right way. So, all right, I rambled on long enough. It's time to wrap this show up. If you're thinking about getting tires, keep it on the back burner. It might cost you a little bit more than just tires. Always have that little bit of extra cash for a wiggle room. But if you're like me, if you have extra cash, you're buying more Jeep parts. And, there is no wiggle room. All right, until next time, this is Nicky G saying, wheel what you got and be happy.